Go.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Welcome to Subway Sports Talk. My name is Peter Kennedy, and I'm your host. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning into SST on Apple Podcast app, Spotify, and on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, subscribe, notification bell on YouTube, because we appreciate when you guys tune in. Appreciate when you guys check in at Subway Sports Talk on the social medias. It's football season, and there's no better time to be a sports fan. However, joining me today, my guy, Pat Boyle, as we'll be talking all football season, Pat. However, it was a great day to be a sports fan, except for all the negative things that happened in our sport fan lives. Brutal. So, Pat, what's up, my guy?
What's up, Pete? I mean, look, week one's in the books, dude. Just get me to week two, right? Bill Belichick, we're on to week two. Honestly, any question you ask me on this podcast today, I might just go, we're on to week two. Because all the excitement, all the joy, all the passion, all the positive feelings that we got back with the NFL, with the week one, with football being back here, you were reminded of all the negative feelings, all the anger, fantasy football, losing my matchup because I started Devonta Smith, who got a whopping 0 points instead of Terry McLaurin. That cost me an L. Losing bets because of kickers, having to watch the Jets play for 3 hours was pain enough. So, but look, we're on to week two. Football is back. There was so much excitement. That the end of that 1 o'clock window was incredible. So let's talk about it.
It was honestly, it really was off the charts. And it's important that I don't think we stressed it enough in week one, but listen, people are grown-ups. It doesn't take you and I to let people know that they need to be smart with their money, obviously, right? We hope that they are. In week one, you can't blow your load. It's just like at the end of the season in week 18, you can't expect to house a bunch of bets because you don't know which team cares. You don't know this, you don't know that. Week one's the same thing. Look at some of these losses, and Mark Shanlugan, our partner on the bets for the year, he called it perfectly. He called the San Francisco minus 300 money line an absolute bomb that was waiting to blow up. And he didn't know it was going to monsoon, I'm sure. However, the monsoon caused a bomb. It's silly to put all your eggs in the week one basket from a betting standpoint, from a fan standpoint, from a fantasy standpoint, because in reality, this hardly means a lot. And we're going to get into that. So why don't we, Pat, first give a quick breakdown of the plan for today. So what we're going to do is we're going to recap our week one bets quickly, go through some of our wins, some of our losses. We're going to play a little game about week one. I'll save that for a minute. Then our following segment is going to be a fun one. I really like this idea here. We're going to take a preseason take from our podcast that we did just two weeks ago. We're going to take that. We're going to pick one that we want to double down on and another preseason take that we're willing to rethink and are actually nervous about, that we don't think is an overreaction, something that we think we might have gotten wrong perhaps. And then we'll talk some general winners, losers, overreactions on week one and look forward to just a matchup or two in week two, obviously with our bets to come later in the week. So that's the plan, right? So Pat, why don't you go first? Or how about this? I'll do Shanlugan's picks first, and then you can go on your picks, and I'll do mine at the end. So Mark Shanlugan, he is a first-time picker on the Subway Sports Talk picks game that we're going to do all season long, all 18 weeks of the regular season, every week of the playoffs, the Super Bowl. You guys get the point. So the start combined, all three of us, 5-10. Not exactly the start we were hoping for. We have good aspirations, and we are planning on being better. Of course, we're trying to win our damn bets. So 2-3 for Mark Shanlugan. Some of the picks that he was making as he made them, and I feel bad doing this with him not being here, but as he made them, he was going moneyline parlay, moneyline and a prop bet together. And I was like, you know what? That week one moneyline vibe is just so scary because you'd never know what type of wildness is going to happen. So here's Mark's bets. He went Ravens and Bengals moneyline parlay at minus 118, and the Bengals lost in overtime with multiple chances to win. I know he's upset about it. He couldn't stop texting us about it on Sunday afternoon and evening. So that was 1 L for him. Took the Colts money line and a Derrick Henry anytime touchdown. He was mad that the Colts tied because that would technically be a push, and DraftKings or et cetera would revamp your odds and pay you out accordingly. Derrick Henry also didn't score. Another L. That's 0 for 2. Titans money line, Broncos money line. That's 2 money line L's of decently big favorites, 5 points and 6 points. So that one hit missed. And then finally, 2 of his last 2 picks he hit. Chargers plus 3.5 and Saints money line. Saints was a nail biter. Chargers wasn't too much better, but still a hit. Win's a win. Vikings plus 7.5. Commanders plus 4.5. In his leg of the Commanders plus 4.5, and my leg, Jaguars plus 9, both touching. So that was okay. So that was Shen's first week of picks. Pat, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really complain because, shoulda, coulda, woulda. I feel like we all could have won a combined 13-2. We could have won a combined 12-3. And I know a lot of people are feeling salty and feeling angry about their bets in week one. Just goes to show you, I mean, you said it. You can't blow your load, so you got to be smart. You got to realize, I think more so than ever. Last year, I know it was historic in terms of the NFL underdogs. 12 dogs last year in week one covered the spread. That was a record, most in any opening week in the Super Bowl era. And 9 pulled off outright upsets. That tied a record. And we had plenty of upsets in terms of Sunday's games as well. Falcons covered. Bears covered and won. Steelers covered and won. Lions covered. Dolphins, I'm looking at here, the first favorite to cover and win. Ravens also covered. Commanders, that spread was what?
2.5 or 3, I forget. But the Commanders covered. We just happen to have teasers in that regard.
Yeah, Texans covered. Giants covered and went outright. So, there was plenty of dogs. And then, of course, on Monday night, Seahawks, Broncos. But, I think Mark had a decent strategy. You get 2 big faves that you like. It just comes down to who's going to screw it up. And we say all the time, how's it going to happen? And then all the football we saw on Sunday and on Monday night, goes to show you nothing's ever a given.
Yeah, exactly. And right before you go, I'll just say, I know Mark, he is a person who has his values of betting, right? Like, he is not going to come out here next week and get scared off his money line parlays. He's not going to get scared off his teasers. That's how he bets, right? And that is one of the most important things you can do as a bettor. It's something that I really took pride on last year, that I comboed straight bets and teasers. And that's what I did all year long with consistent thinking, right? So Mark's not going to come out here with 5 straight bets next week. That's not who he is. He's going to stick to his strategy, and he's going to hope that it turns out how he expected week one to go. And that's really a great thing to remind yourself every week, that it's process over results. If you think that you made the right pick because of what you watched on the field, what just could have happened at the end of the game, etc., you can't beat yourself up over that pick because you think you made the right pick. You might have made the right pick. It's just a game, and it's just football that causes 4 points, 7 points, 3 points, 1 point to swing out of your favor, and you get a loss. So, Pat, why don't you hit us with your week one recap?
Yeah, so the first one was, I told you, my most confident, and it hit with ease. Ravens minus 2.5, under 52.5. As we expected, the only thing that was a surprise was Joe Flacco throwing the ball 59 goddamn times. Just as a side here, if Mike White's not under center, I don't know what the hell Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh are doing, because I've seen enough of this statue Flacco. And him throwing the ball 59 times, I mean, at least get somebody that's young and has a lively arm. Flacco had a cannon when he was in Baltimore, but he doesn't anymore. I mean, there was plenty of zip that was missing from his passes. So that was the easiest one. Jets only scored 9 points. Ravens win by 15. Colts, minus 2.5 and over 39.5. You can make the argument this really never should have even had a chance at hitting. But then again, Indianapolis comes all the way back. 17 unanswered in the fourth quarter. They tie the game. They have a chance to win it. And Rodrigo Blankenship can't hit a field goal. They waive him. Goggles is off the team. I'm not upset about it. I've never liked him. I think he's just repulsive to look at. So that one loses because the Colts can't hit a field goal. Common theme. Titans money line and the under 52.5. Yet again, Giants down 13-0 at the half. The fucking Giants down 13-0 at half. I mean, the years past, Pete, that's a 30-point loss. They never even come close to waking up. Not only do they wake up, Brian Daboll shows everybody he's got the biggest balls potentially in the league, or one of the biggest sets, goes for 2 and gets it. And then again, Randy Bullock shanks a game-winning field goal that would have hit the bet. There's another loss. Raiders plus 10.5. Nailed it with the touchdown. Over 44.5. If they get the 2-point conversion, it hits. They do not. 24-19 is the final. The over misses by the 2-point conversion. That's another loss. And then, of course, Monday night, Broncos minus 2.5, over 36.5. Even if McManus hits that field goal, it's only 36 points. They would have won 19-17. Would have been a loss anyway. But I mean, Jesus Christ, can we fucking hold on to the football at the goal line one time, maybe? Can we hold
One
on
time.
to the football at the goal line one time? So 1-4, you can tell I'm angry. I feel like I should be 5-0, but hay is for horses, crying's for babies.
Yeah, that is correct. And based off of some of those tough beats right there, right? Like you kind of want to say, I regret nothing, because those are gimmies. Those are some of the better kickers in the league too. Like if you think about Blankenship, he's been good so far in his career. Clearly something's up. They told him to go kick rocks instead of footballs. Now, even Randy Bullock is a guy you expect to hit it. Wasn't a 62 yarder. It was a reasonable field goal to expect. And the Broncos was just frustrating them not going for it. Like you said, the over would have missed if McManus hit anyway, yada, yada. It is what it is. I feel like you and Shen and myself trusted the process. We have to stick with it. So without further ado, here are my own picks. So you talked about the underdogs. It was something I had in mind going into week one, understanding the trends in the past couple of years, understanding how the public loves favorites, etc. And I tried to hammer some underdogs. One worked out well, one not so well. Not so well, the New England Patriots plus 3.5. And that's one where I want to say,
I hate myself.
Because I like the Dolphins better. I like them better all across the board. Better talent, better receivers, Papa John's, ingredients, yada, yada. You get it. They got completely outplayed, did the Patriots. It was ugly, and I did not feel good about that bet from the get-go. And that's what the type of bet, sometimes it works out. Maybe it worked out with the Giants, but the Patriots one's a little bit of a more painful loss for me. Giants, however, I can't believe they won, Pat, but I did have good faith that they would cover. Now, granted, that game was so wild. Who the hell knows? I'll take the Giants plus 5.5. I did not sprinkle the money line, and I'm not going to say I wish I did because I had no faith in them anyway, but I'll take the win. Cowboys plus 8.5 and Jaguars plus 9. Hit one leg of the teaser with the Jaguars keeping it close in Washington. However, Dak Prescott gets hurt. Their offense looked abysmal before he got hurt. That was ugly. I thought they'd keep it close. 'Twas not the case. This one was a shocker for me. And you know me, Pat, this is not standard for me to take a straight up over under. I went over 42 on the Browns and Panthers game, and it felt like a crazy bet. That was the bet I rooted for the hardest because it was so out of character for me to do a bet like that. But I was looking at it for a long time, and I said, I think the Browns are going to do a little better than expected. I think they're going to get in the end zone. They're going to be able to run the ball. Jacoby Brissett is not going to be completely abysmal. And that's pretty much what happened. I expected the Panthers to win, but I got scared off betting them straight up, and I'm glad I did. Nick Chubb looked awesome, didn't get in the end zone. Kareem Hunt cleaned it up and got in there for him. Panthers scored just enough points for that over to hit, and it hit with relative leads. There was more points after the over hit to go up in the high 40s. So I'll take that one, and I rooted for that one very hard. Last but not least, I told you I didn't want to do it. However, I did it, and the Vikings were not the issue in this bet. It was Vikings plus 7.5 and over 39.5. I felt fantastic about the 7.5, and that one obviously hit with the Vikings' big win. The over was a risky one, and soon as that game got a little bit out of hand where the Vikings scored early, the Watson drop touchdown, I was like, damn, the Packers, when they do lose, they do tend to kind of just give it up a little bit, especially if it goes 2 scores, 3 scores down, whatever it may be. They're like, we're going to be fine. Let's just chuck it. Yeah, that's when Rodgers throws interceptions. He's like, fuck it. Someone's down there. They're probably not going to catch it anyway. And that's what happened. The Packers couldn't score. They didn't keep their end of the bargain. Over 39 did not hit. So that's me, 2-3. Shen, 2-3. Pat, 1-4. But Pat, you have 2 of the worst, toughest beats right there, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? And, Pete, if we want to sum up week one here in one sentence, for me, week one in one sentence, kicker's ruining my life, right? Kicker's ruining my life. Blankenship missing a field goal to win it for the Colts. I didn't give this pick out on the podcast, but they ended up having another separate bet where I had Ravens Bengals in a parlay. And of course, McPherson not only gets the extra point blocked, but then they laces out. He shanks the field goal in overtime to win the game. So there's another Blankenship missing. And McManus. But, again, that pick should have hit with relative ease. Denver, they couldn't stop Geno Smith, who give Geno credit. I love that they asked him after the game, what do you say to the people that write them off, that wrote you off? He goes, I didn't write back. He goes, they wrote me off. I didn't write back. But even then, Denver took complete control of that game in the second half. I mean, they should have won by 2 scores. So, and the Raiders missing a 2-point conversion. So, I mean, look, NFL, we see it every goddamn week. You know, it's in a 3-hour game, it's won and it's lost at the margins. And it's easy to look at a game that is 24-21 and say, oh, this team was better, even though they only won by 3. But, I mean, there's like 7 to 10 plays, if not more, in any game that can swing a game's result, win or loss. And when you got so many missed kicks, when you have so much time management issues from veteran head coaches, let alone Nathaniel Hackett, who's a rookie, the way Mike Vrabel managed the end of that game for the Titans was brutal. I mean, you know, I understand the preseason barely matters anymore, but what the fuck is it for if these guys are out here in week 1 and looking like they haven't stepped on a field since January? I don't get it.
Very frustrating, 100% across the board. Agreed with you. And the kickers caused chaos. And that'll lead me into my week 1 summation and recap. Mostly chaos, nothing to write home about. So I'm taking the line from Geno Smith about not writing back. I'm taking this week 1 as mostly chaos, nothing to write home about, because I'd say most of these outcomes that were in the balance and whatever, if they were replayed in 3 weeks, we could be looking at extremely different games. To look at that Broncos game in particular, if that game's in week 4, Broncos by 10. I really feel that way. You can see in the second half, you know, Geno Smith didn't make the big mistake. He didn't turn the ball over. He didn't throw a big interception, but the Broncos took over. They were en route to win. If there was 5 quarters in the NFL game, they were winning that game, right? So if that game happens again in 3 weeks, which it doesn't, I love the Broncos, right? And same concept with a couple of these other games where, you know, Niners, Bears, not in a monsoon. Like, what are we looking at? A completely different game. You can't put too much stock into some of these week 1 performances. You know, however, there are some that you feel really good about because they look crisp. They look like they're prepared. They didn't look like the preseason and camp meant nothing to them. And, the week 1, week 2, we'll figure it out. Right? Some teams actually took it serious enough where they came out sharp. They came out like they had things they worked on all summer and they made it happen. So it's not all chaos. It's not all nothing to write home about, but mostly chaos. And I ain't writing home. So that's how I felt about week 1. But yeah, so that's our little week 1 sentence recap. But now looking more big picture, Pat, let's talk about a preseason take that you and I had. You can go first if you'd like. I can go first if you'd like. The preseason take that we had that we want to double down on. Something we said in our preview, something we said even earlier than that, something you said on air on WFAN or CBS radio, something that you watched that week 1 and you said, yeah, I wish I could put more money on that over. I wish maybe I will double down on that division winner, etc. So Pat, what is your first preseason take that you want to double down on?
I'm going to double down on the Raiders winning the AFC West. I know for a large part of that game against the Chargers, they did not look good. They were down 17-3. They were down 24-10. They were down 2 scores for, really most of the first half and beginning of the second half, and all of a sudden they made it a contest late in the game. But, I know Derek Carr threw 3 picks, but he was aggressive, right? They threw the ball down the field. That's exactly what they have to do. I mean, and Devontae Adams getting 17 targets, that he should be, right? He should be getting 17 targets until a team proves that they can stop him. And if the Chargers had J.C. Jackson, maybe it's a different story. But again, you can't play ifs in the NFL because you have guys that are hurt every single week in major positions. So Adams getting the ball 10 times, 10 catches for 141 yards. I thought they used Waller well. I know he was a little banged up. He just signed a contract, so I want to see them use him more. I was disappointed with Hunter Renfrow only having 3 catches. But, for the most part, that Raiders defense, which I was expecting to take a big step up, they did. They battened down in the second half. They held the Chargers to 24. I mean, Herbert, for the most part, didn't have too tough of a day. He didn't get sacked. But the Chargers with Patrick Graham played exactly the kind of defense I thought they were going to play. And that is keep things in front, play that soft zone, force teams to nickel and dime them down the field rather than getting beat with the long ball. I know Keenan Allen broke one, but that was about it. They had 3 passing plays of 25 yards or more, of 20 yards or more, and that was it. So, for the most part, I thought the Raiders defense was up to the task. Carr's got to limit the interceptions, obviously, but I think he's going to. I'm not losing faith in Derek Carr. I'm going to double down on it. And look, week 1 road game against the Chargers, who are the betting favorites to win the division. And the Raiders had a chance to win that game late. I still like my chances with the Raiders. I'm doubling down on them, and they're going to win the AFC West.
I'm surprised by your pick, and it's not because of anything you said about the Raiders. I actually have some thoughts that would agree with what you said, Raiders versus Chargers. However, you mentioned that you still want to double down on the Raiders to win the AFC West. One of your other takes, if I remember correctly, Pat, was the Chiefs are still here and they should not be taken lightly as a Super Bowl favorite. And that might have been another preseason take you could have doubled down on. Do you think that the division maybe doesn't matter in that regard? Or where do you land on that? Maybe you want to double down on both of those because both can technically take place.
Yeah. I mean, I could. I just think, I got to a point where I realized the Chiefs are not as strong as they are, obviously, right? I mean, that's, that you don't need me to tell you that. But then it gets to a point where the overreaction is so great where people are saying, oh, Chiefs might miss the playoffs. And I'm like, well, hold on. Wait a minute. Wait a minute here. Chiefs are not going to miss the playoffs, right? They solved a lot of those defensive issues towards the second half of last year. I know their offense on paper isn't as strong without Tyreek Hill, but I said it's going to force them to become a much more balanced offense. And I'm not going to overreact to what they did to Arizona in week 1, but still mightily, damn impressive, putting up 44 points. Mahomes looked just as good as he always does. I mean, 30 at 39 for 360 and 5 tutties. Plus, they had the run game going. So, yeah, I'm going to double down in the sense that the Chiefs are a Super Bowl contender, absolutely. But yeah, no, I agree. I think even if they don't win the division, they've got the postseason resume. They've got the experience. They've basically had 4 straight years of it now, and they still have Andy Reid, who shut everybody up, by saying, oh, he can never win the Super Bowl. He can never win the big one. They've got Mahomes. I said, if you got the quarterback and you got the coach, that's, you've got a chance. So, yeah, I will double down in saying that the Chiefs will be a contender for the Super Bowl. They're going to make the playoffs. Absolutely. But I'm still saying that the Raiders are going to be good enough overall consistently through 18 weeks in the regular season to win the division. And I would say the Raiders have as good of a shot as the Chiefs to win the AFC.
And if you think about that head-to-head game, part of it is because of the score and what had to happen because Carr threw those interceptions. But the Raiders outgained the Chargers on the air and in the ground. They had the best receiver and the second best receiver in the game. They had the best running back in the game. Like, they were just better in general, except for the interceptions. And we know turnovers are not something that you want to bank on over and over and over again to happen consistently. So it's a take from you that I'm here for. And if you want to get frisky with it, Pat, right now, the division odds for the AFC West drop the Raiders real low. So if you do want to double down, they're now plus 800 to win the AFC West. It was much tighter preseason, and the Broncos are still at 450. Don't know how that odd is, or those odds are there, because the Raiders and Broncos, I don't know how you can say that Denver looked better than the Raiders. So I'm with you on that regard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, they play this game in Vegas. I'd love to see what happens. They shocked Baltimore week 1 last year. So they did get off to a great start. But, again, I would have loved to see what the Raiders were in totality without the adversity they had to face with Gruden and Ruggs and everything. I mean, you could also kind of make the argument it made them better, but they were a much better, much more sound team in all facets of the game. And look, they had a tough challenge week 1. Honestly, I'm fine with that. Get the tough game out of the way early. Probably one of the toughest games they're going to play all year, right? Like I said, the betting favorite to win the division, the Chargers, on the road, week 1. I'm okay with how they played because Carr was aggressive. It's tough to watch every single play and every single throw, but I was going back through some of the highlights. Yeah, the one interception that he threw to Waller wasn't great, but the other 2, I'm fine with those. I'm fine. So he took his chances. They went down the field, and again, I'm gonna double down. Raiders are gonna win the West.
The only thing you have to be concerned with Derek Carr, in my opinion, is that he doesn't reel it in, right? Because he's not the type of quarterback to throw a lot of interceptions over and over and over again, game after game. But he could be the type of quarterback who decides not to push it downfield as frequently if some of those interceptions happen. So that's just something to look out for in week 2, 3, 4. That Carr is still aggressive. He is still attacking. And if he's doing that, this offense has the ability to put up a ton of points.
And McDaniels said in his post-game press conference, I was, looking on Twitter and watching some of the videos, he said he was probably playing a little too aggressively. I'm fine with that.
We'll take
I'd
that.
rather my quarterback be too aggressive rather than be a pussy, like excuse my language.
We saw too many teams in week 1 not be aggressive. Like week 1 is the time where you have a whole season to figure it out. Yes, you can argue that one loss in week 1 can come back to bite you, yada, yada. But if you want to set the tone for aggression, you have to do it in week 1. So I'm with you. No fault of Derek Carr and the Raiders letting it fly a little bit because they're, like I said, they're going to put up points this year. All right, so my first pick for a preseason take that I want to double down on is going to be an under that I took when we did a couple over-unders just last week, Pat. It's the Cincinnati Bengals. And I don't want to say it's just a reaction to the loss. Like you already explained, they could have and should have won in week 1, but it wouldn't really change my mind. This helps me with an under just because they have a loss on the record already. But I'm nervous about 2 things with the Cincinnati Bengals. One being obviously that Joe Burrow was under duress the entire time. The 4 interceptions, we'll take or leave that. We're not going to harp on 4 interceptions too much. I don't expect that to happen super frequently, but the pressure that he had on top of him all game long is a huge issue and something to be worried about. It was much talked about with the Bengals improving the offensive line over the offseason. The rub on this is that they can get better over time, and you probably expect them to get better over time. But last year, the Bengals were the number 1 team with Joe Burrow throwing into tight windows and making big plays because Jamar Chase was off the charts. T. Higgins was off the charts. Tyler Boyd does it every once in a while. And CJ Uzama, who's not there anymore, was also pretty good in this category. We always say, Patrick Mahomes says, fuck it, Tyreek down there somewhere. Joe Burrow is actually the guy who said, fuck it, Jamar Chase down there somewhere all season long last year. And when they went on that incredible run in the second half of the season, that was their bread and butter. I don't find that to be super sustainable, even with all the dripping talent that Jamar Chase has as a wide receiver in this league. It is something that I want to see cleaned up. They need to get easier drives, easier points. It can't be relied upon jump balls and one-on-ones all day, every day, especially when Joe Burrow doesn't even have time to let his routes develop. So that's something I'm keeping a keen eye on, and I would double down on the Bengals under, which I believe was at 10. So getting that first loss obviously helps me in that regard, but even if they won that game, I still feel a certain type of way with what I saw from that offense and the duress that Joe Burrow was under, that I'm nervous about what's going to happen when they play good teams and their defense doesn't show up and only give up 17 points a game. Are they going to consistently be able to score 24 plus, 30 point plus performances with this offensive line and relying on Jamar Chase to be a superhero?
It's very valid. Very valid, man. And, we all thought the offensive line was going to be so much better, adding Lyle Collins, adding Kappa. They did not look very good at all. And, who knows? I know DJ Watt left that game late, and great news for Pittsburgh fans. He's not getting surgery. He's only going to miss 6 weeks, they think. But, I know he's arguably the best pass rusher in the NFL. They're going to have plenty of other good pass rushes and teams that can get to the quarterback coming at them. And if Kappa can't protect him, if Collins can't protect him, this revamped offensive line that was going to solve all their issues looks the same as it did last year, where Burrow's under duress and under pressure almost off the get-go. I mean, again, then you're relying on Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon to basically play out of their minds like they did for most of last season to make up for a shitty O-line. Tough to do it twice in 2 years. And again, I said it all of last year, that defense went above and beyond, played out of their skulls, especially in the postseason and in the takeaway department. So if they're not doing that, and you're down double digits most of that game against Mitch Trubisky and the Steelers, I'm not getting sold on the Steelers. I'm not getting sold a bill of goods that the Steelers are going to be a double-digit win team this year. I think I know exactly who they are. So that was a bad loss. Very, very bad loss week 1.
Yeah, Najee Harris. Yeah, Najee Harris went down at a certain point there. You already mentioned TJ Watt. And you know what? Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon were really good in week one. I mean, Jamar had 10 for 129 and his long was only 24 yards. So it's not like he had, one catch for 62 yards and then 9 catches for a little scrap here and there. He had consistency. He had 129 on 10 catches. It's amazing. Joe Mixon, 60 yards in the receiving category, 80 yards on the ground. They did their part to an extent. Obviously, they need to be better. But I'm feeling good about that. One more for you, Pat, here on my double down. I mentioned when we talked about Tua Tagovailoa last week that I think he's going to be very good against bad teams, and I think he's going to struggle against good teams. I think we saw a mixed bag in week one because the Patriots, even with the lack of talent, obviously have a system defensively to make things a little bit more difficult on a quarterback. So Tua looked average, right? He had some things that were kind of ugly, kind of clunky. He had obviously a lot of that quick rhythmic passing game that hit really well. He has the playmakers. It's going to continue. When they play a lesser opponent, he's going to look good. His numbers are going to be good. If he doesn't turn the ball over, they're going to win a bunch of games, and I think they're going to make the playoffs. But when they play good teams with a good pass rush, I am still nervous. So my double down is really a meddling take here that I think Tua dominates bad competition, looks average against average competition, and is going to struggle against the best teams. They're lucky that their division isn't very strong outside of the Buffalo Bills, and they're lucky that their schedule isn't a top 10 hardest schedule in the league because they're going to be able to compete based off the talent on that roster. So Tua, for whatever he gives to you based on the opponent, you're going to take it because this team will win a lot of games.
Okay. Quick double down for you before we move to one that we have some doubts about is the Cowboys. And I know Dak is done now for probably 2 months minimum. But, I mean, look, let's be honest. They were absolute dog shit even when he was playing before he got hurt, right? Late in the third quarter. I mean, they couldn't do anything. Losing Amari Cooper is a huge, huge miss for them. When Gallup comes back, but now CeeDee Lamb he's not a number one receiver. And I know a lot of people had very high hopes for him. He had 11 targets. He caught 2 balls. He did not look good. He looked lost. His route running, which is usually very, very good, was not very good at all. Tampa Bay's defense, I know they're going to be elite once again, but that was brutal to watch. And I don't know why anybody was buying stock in Ezekiel Elliott this year. I think we've known who he is now for the last 2 years. He is a mediocre running back. He is no longer an elite running back. He hasn't been for 2 years. So like I said, Dallas was frauds. They're gonna hit their under, and especially now, that's an obvious statement without Dak for the next 6 to 8 weeks. But again, those first 3 quarters told a very, very big tale about who they were, even if Prescott's under center. And I thought they were going to struggle to make the playoffs with him. And now, if you're a Dallas fan, you might want to just goodnight the lights until September of next season. It's going to be a
100%.
long year.
You could have also said, to double down, anyone who bet the Eagles to win the NFC East, it's still only minus 150. It's a great number to still get in on. And that feels so good. And even though they let up the lead against the Lions, that's okay. They are the best team in this division. So if you want to double down on the Cowboys stinking, that works. If you want to double down on the Eagles winning division, it's still minus 150. That's a beautiful thing as well. The Giants are actually second at plus 400 with the Commanders at plus 500 in third on those odds, which blows my mind that it's even that close. The Cowboys right now are plus 650. They should be plus 2,000 right now. They ain't winning the division with 8 weeks of missing Dak Prescott. I think the Commanders are the sneaky NFC East division bet at plus 500. I ain't going to touch it. But if you bet the Eagles at plus 150, or even if you got them earlier at plus 200, plus 250, go throw some extra change at minus 150 because those odds are going to drop every single week, especially as the Eagles schedule is soft and they're going to win. They're going to beat bad teams. They're going to walk to 10 wins, I think, this year, especially because of how weak that division is. So double down the NFC East all across the board. It's all good. I'm not rethinking my Giants under either, Pat. I'm not going to rethink that. Are you rethinking it?
I'm rethinking it? Dude.
Oh no.
You know what? When it comes to the Giants over the last 3 years, it would have just paid off to be basically as if you were a sharp bettor. Be ahead of the curve. When everybody thought they were going to be pretty decent 2 years ago, you should have just said they're going to be terrible. When everybody thought they had a chance to win a division last year, myself included, I should have said, you know what? What am I thinking? The Giants are going to be terrible. And now that we think the Giants are going to be terrible, look, again, I've got a big gripe with Randy Bullock. I got a big gripe with Mike Vrabel. I got a big gripe with Ryan Tannehill. But at the same time, dude, the Giants showed a pulse that they have not had in years. Coming, like I said, 13-0 at the half. They were cooked. They were lifeless. It was same old Giants. I was ready to not even cash out the bet. I was ready to metaphorically cash it out because I thought the game was going to be over. And then all of a sudden, I mean, look, dude, Daniel Jones, I did the 180, and Daniel Jones made a terrible, horrendous pass in the end zone looking for Barkley. But at the same time, you know, he didn't turn the ball over outside of that, right? He didn't turn the ball over. He did. He strip sacked, which wasn't his fault.
Got smoked.
Yeah, that was not his fault. That's not the one where he's holding it in the pocket, holding it, you know, being very hesitant, and then on his way down loses the football. Right. But look, dude, Saquon's been talking a whole lot of shit this whole offseason. If he is back, look out, because that run game takes so much pressure off of Daniel Jones having to throw to Shepard or Galladay or, you know, I mean, I got another big problem too, though, with the Giants, because how does Kadarius Toney only get fucking 7 snaps? I don't know. There was obviously something going on. Maybe Daboll is still salty with him not showing up early in the preseason. There's absolutely no fucking way Kadarius Toney can only get 7 snaps. So if they actually get, you know, in cohesion, Daboll and Toney, and they have to because he is way too talented. I mean, look out. This offense could be even more special. But Saquon Barkley going 18 for 164, man, ripping off big runs like we saw his rookie year. Look, if they can at least just have an O-line that can run block, you know, they don't need to be a great pass blocking team, and they're not going to be. I mean, Jones got sacked 5 times. So if they can just run the ball, you're at least going to see some life from this offense. They put up 21 points in the second half, dude. And again, they have a pulse. They have a head coach that wants to win. That is something they have. Those intangibles they haven't had come close to having over the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years. So with the easy schedule, I'm not ready to say that I totally reverse on it, but there is some doubt in my mind because the Giants, again, they're going to play, Chicago, Detroit, Jacksonville, Seattle. I mean, dude, if they play the way they did in the second half, they could win 3 of those games, and you're maybe looking at a Giants team that does go 8-9 this year. I hate to say it, but I got some doubts.
Let me jump in because you're right. There's a reason to have doubts. Just listen to their next 3 games because the way we looked at these games preseason versus now is very different already. They have the Panthers next week. It's a winnable game. It's not a game that is a shoo-in. They're not going to be more. Actually, I don't have the lineup. I can probably find it as we speak here for a minute.
I'll check right now. It's probably a pick 'em.
Yeah, it's probably close to a pick 'em. It's no more than 3 in either direction. I think the Giants might be 1.5 or something in that regard. It's the Giants -1. Yes, Giants -1 against the Panthers. Then they
you're seeing -1. I'm seeing -2.5.
I'm looking on pregame.com. I'm not looking at DraftKings right now, so it could easily.
I have DraftKings pulled up, which is odd because they're -135 on the money line, but the spread's -2.5.
Interesting. We'll have to discuss that on our picks on Thursday night into Friday. They have the Panthers. Then they have the Cowboys, which would have been chalked up as a lose against Dak Prescott, but now they're going to be favored in that game, most likely against Cooper Rush. Then they have the Bears. There is a universe, Pat, where the Giants are 4-0.
Yeah, I know.
Can you believe it? There is an actual reality where the Giants are 4-0. Then they have the Packers and Ravens. We'll say those are 2 L's. Then it's the Jaguars, Seahawks, Texans, Lions, Cowboys, Commanders. God damn it, Pat. There's a chance they have like 6 wins halfway through the season. There's a chance. And I hate that. I'm not going to double down on the under, but I'm not rethinking it yet. I need to see them take care of business against Carolina and Dallas first, because there are some issues here. But you're right. The schedule is so soft that there is a chance they really can get to 8 wins. God forbid more. I don't know. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. My one note, though, on Daniel Jones, and it's combo note between the offensive play calling and himself just as a quarterback. There's clearly an emphasis on using him as a runner, which I love. It's something that should have been done with him since he was a rookie. He's clearly had the legs for it. He's clearly able to break big ones if he gets a lane. But the big but is this man needs to figure out if he's going to slide or dive headfirst or just get tackled. You have to decide because this little side dive thing where he gets hit every time is a fumble waiting to happen. One, it's an injury waiting to happen. Two, which maybe is something that the Giants don't particularly care about. And they look at Tyrod Taylor and Daniel Jones as a wash and say, hey, we're going to run Daniel Jones because it's an effective play for us. And if he gets hurt, so be it. But he needs to decide. There was a play where it was a 3rd down and like 4 where he kept the ball on the QB read and he went up the left side and he did the sideways dive, got hit, did not get the first down. He got marked a little short because it was a weird dive slide and he got marked short. If he just got tackled, just get tackled normal. He falls forward and gains the extra yard. It was a first down. So pick a side, Daniel Jones. Slide or get tackled. I don't want to see this weird side dive where you get hit every time. It is mind-boggling, and I'm hoping that Daboll is on his ass because clearly he doesn't mind to get on his ass as we saw on the sideline in week 1. So that needs to be ironed out. Keep using him as a runner. It's going to be a weapon. It's going to help Saquon. It's going to help the offensive line, but just figure it out, DJ. You have to slide or you have to get tackled. No more in between. You're going to get hurt. You're going to fumble. Bad things are going to happen. So that is my note about Daniel Jones. The bad throw to Saquon sucked. It was a deflator. I can't believe they came back and still won after that. The offensive line is having nightmares about Jeffrey Simmons right now. Thank God they don't have to play him again. He was a monster. But this team has something. And in the world of back, you'll find Saquon Barkley. So there we are. There's the New York Giants rub for the over, the under, the division. I don't know. They have a chance to be relevant.
Absolutely. You summed it up pretty well. And I absolutely agree with the slide dive. He's like the most athletic quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
Because we've seen him break off huge runs. And in one play, the huge run against Philly, breaks off a huge run, hits like 21 miles an hour, falls on his face.
Literally.
Such a good runner. But like the sideways side slide dive, I mean, what the fuck is that? One or the other. And you can't slide short. You can't slide short of the first down.
Now, if you're going to slide short and be safe with it. Like, listen, not every quarterback's built like Josh Allen to fucking bully somebody and fall forward for 2.5 yards. It's not going to happen with 90% of quarterbacks in this league. But there's certain points in the game where you have to make a decision and you got to send it. So I want to see Daniel Jones send it as a runner. I want to see him continue to be average as a passer. And there's a chance for this team to score points. And on the Tony front, in his 2 touches, Pat, he created a disaster play it looked like he was actually going to throw the ball, right? So they trusted him to throw the ball, but not run any routes. Okay. That makes sense. But he circles back, makes 4 people miss and gains 3 yards. It was incredible. And then on the other run, I think he picked up like 11 yards or something like that. I don't have it in front of me. And it was another great run. The guy's electric. We all know this. Let's get him involved and let's see what happens. So that's enough on the Giants. I'm getting worked up over here. So let's talk about a take that we want to rethink, Pat. Do you have a take that you want to rethink after week 1?
I mean, outside of the Giants, just off the top of my head, in terms of rethinking one,
it's okay if you don't have one because that means that you're trusting your process, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with that.
No, I mean, I am trusting the process. I'm just trying to go back and think of, I feel like there wasn't really anything egregious, right? Like neither of us were super high on the Bengals. We were both very doubtful of them, which is looking very good. I would say if I'm going to rethink anything, it's maybe rethinking that Tua was ever even going to try to throw the ball down the field in the first place and that he might have a good year. Just because, again, they're going to run the exact game plan that we all thought they were going to run. Short slants, bubble screens, small, little drag routes over the middle, and they're going to go for the yak yards. I mean, how many times did Tua throw the ball in the air more than 10 yards? At least from what I saw, the highlights I went back and watched, not a lot, right? A lot of it is exactly what Tyreek Hill does best, and that's he caught the ball 8 times for 94 yards. So it's getting the ball to Tyreek Hill and letting him run. Getting the ball on that 4th down to Jalen Waddle and watching him just break one right up the middle because the Patriots had no idea what was coming on that 4th down play, which I love the gamble from McDaniel. No rhyme intended there. But he completed 23 passes for 270 yards, and a lot of that came on yards after the catch. So maybe, if there is one thing I'm going to I wouldn't say renege on, but also have some doubts on is that Tua is my take that Tua was gonna have a shit year and they were gonna be searching for another quarterback. It's because they've got the exact type of weapons that suits his game, and maybe trusting him to actually execute it. Um, you know, if they have to start throwing the ball down the field, if they get behind, I still believe he's not going to be able to do that. So I'm not reneging on that. But when they play from ahead, they can nickel and dime teams down the field to death with either running it or with short passes. A short pass is just as good as a run for this team, and they were able to execute it perfectly against the Patriots, who, by the way, were totally lifeless on offense. So we'll see how they do. If they have to come back or if they're playing a better defense. New England's defense, even then, held them to 20 points. It's not like they lit them up, but
they were just so in control, right?
Yeah, maybe, so if there is something that I am going to maybe doubt after week one is that maybe I'm doubting that Tua is going to have a shit year now just because, again, they're going to just go to the same game plan every week. And when you've got skilled players that are so athletic like Tyreek and Waddle, it's tough to stop.
Yeah, and it really comes down to how good Mike McDaniel's going to be. Because if Tua is dinking and dunking and diming all over the place within 10 yards, defenses say, all right, we're loading the box, we're pressing up, we're going to cut off all this short stuff. Tua doesn't have to throw a 50-yard bomb to hit Tyreek over the top. He has to throw it 30 yards. And that's something he probably can do, right? So, again, it doesn't mean Tua is amazing, but it means he's going to be good enough with the talent around him and a system around him for it to work this year. So that's the take there. My take on rethinking here is not one that was one of my big takes. It's more of a meddling take, one of the general takes of the NFL public and everyone who's talking about this game that we love so much. And it's the Los Angeles Chargers. There's two things that are interesting to me about the Chargers. I didn't pick them to be a Super Bowl contender per se. I picked them to make the playoffs and be in it, give or take. But I didn't pick them as one of my odds that I'm taking on the Super Bowl. And I'm gonna rethink that they're even gonna be a lock for the playoffs because of how good the Raiders can be. The Broncos we expect to be better, and the Chiefs I think are gonna win that division. Brandon Staley has made his name, for better or worse, being aggressive. 100%. He took his foot off the gas a little bit in that first week. He had a 4th and 1 in the middle of the field. That was an automatic go for him last year. Now it worked out, and he punted, and they punted down to the goal line almost, and it worked out. They scored on the next drive. That's great. I just don't know if Brandon Staley knows who he wants to be now. Did he hear the criticism and is going to change his mind, going to change aggression, going to not trust Herbert to go be amazing on 4th and 5 every single time or 4th and 2? That's a question mark for me. And then second is, where are their explosives going to come? I don't see this team as a very fast team. I love Keenan Allen so much as a wide receiver. He's not the type of guy to constantly beat people downfield. Mike Williams is a jump ball guy. They're going to have to do more to get him involved. And Eckler can be that guy, but he's more, 15 yards at a time. He's not one to break 60, 70 yarders super frequently. So I'm a little bit nervous about this team's identity offensively. They have the robot, awesome savage of Justin Herbert at quarterback, but I'm not sure what is going to be unleashed on that offense yet. So I'm rethinking locking them in as a playoff team just because I need to see more of what they are. Who are they going to be from an aggression standpoint, from a coaching standpoint? And their defense obviously played well with the turnovers and in general, but I'm not ready now to just say they're a playoff team with that division, that schedule, and how good the rest of the AFC West looks.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I think to a lot of people's surprise, they only went for it on one time, that 1 4th down play. That was it. So maybe Brandon Staley reeling it back in a little bit. But
is that good or bad, though? Is that good or bad for him to change his identity? I don't know. It probably has to meet in the middle somewhere, and it probably will over time. Like, he will regress back to his mean of being the aggressive 4th down goer. But there's just a question mark for me onto how this offense creates explosives. Herbert's amazing. I need to see them do it because they're going to have to put up points to win against some of their competition.
Yeah, and they didn't run the ball well at all against Vegas. And I'm surprised, honestly, that Eckler split so many of the carries with Josh Kelly and Sony Michel. Maybe they're trying to keep him healthy. They're trying to, save him, not, use him, I guess, on 60 to 70 snaps a week. But they really didn't do much in the run game. So I think a lot of that is predicated on how well they can run the ball. Because if everybody knows that from second down on, they're throwing it, it's going to be much tougher for them to get yardage. So I like that take.
All right. So any other general winners, losers, overreactions for week one? If not, we'll move on to week two. I think we touched on a lot already.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Russ Wilson going back to Seattle, and look, for anybody that's religious, for any of your beliefs, I don't care. But when Russ Wilson he's now using religion to not answer questions in the post game, that's where I have a problem. When people are asking, "Oh, what did you think of?" They mercilessly booed him, which I didn't agree with. I thought Seattle fans, again, the guy brings you a Super Bowl title. He basically gave everything to that city for 10 years, and then he left because you couldn't, the owners of the team and the front office refused to put an offensive line around him. You're going to boo the guy, rain down boos. I didn't agree with that. But for them to ask, "Oh, what did you think of the crowd booing you?" And he goes, "Oh, there's only one audience. I play for an audience of one, and it's God." It's like, dude, just fucking answer the question. Just answer the question. Not everything has to be about God, or every single time you open your mouth. That's all it's about. Just shut up and say something actually with meaning, and not post some stupid ass TikToks or whatever other stupid videos he has about football, faith, and family. So,
right.
But going to Seattle in a game again, they should have won. Him and Nathaniel Hackett, the big losers of week one for me. And then big winners of week one, another team that we have not talked about a lot so far is the New Orleans Saints. Again, easily could have lost that game. Falcons once again proving that they can never hold the lead no matter who's at quarterback. But look, Jameis Winston was really, really good in that second half, man. It was really, really good. And they could have easily folded that game in, said, "You know what, week one on the road division opponent. All right, we'll get them next week." No, man, they came back. They had some really good drives. Give Dennis Allen a lot of credit. That is a rookie head coach in his first game that actually came from behind and got the job done. Michael Thomas, 2 touchdowns. We'll see as he gets more reps and gets back to being Michael Thomas. We'll see the chemistry with Jameis. But Juice Landry, man, what a first game for him. 7 for 114. He was all over the place, making huge catches. Olave had a couple of nice grabs. And, again, Kamara didn't even run the ball that well. They had the Swiss Army knife, Taysom Hill break off that one huge run. But, I mean, that was an impressive win for New Orleans. I didn't touch them. I didn't touch Atlanta. I thought that game could have went either way. But then for them to be down 2 scores, come back, get the 2-point conversion, and then hit the field goal and then block Younghoe Koo at the end, I thought that was a very impressive win. So Saints are going to be a force. I don't think they're going to have a chance of winning the NFC South over Tampa Bay, but they could absolutely be eyeing a wild card berth this year. I would keep an eye out for New Orleans. I think they're going to be a solid team.
The defense is pretty talented, as it's been for the past year or two, and the weapons are serious. If Michael Thomas is Michael Thomas, he is him. He is that dude. He will be a number one threat if he's healthy and sane, I guess, right? And Olave and Jarvis Landry as a 2-3. Wow. That is an offense that can explode. And I didn't mention Alvin Kamara. Like you said, he didn't even look that good. So I agree. Obviously, you'd like them to win that with a little bit more handedly. And I do believe Dennis Allen was a coach in the past. Was he the Raiders coach, I believe? So it wasn't a rookie, but he's a new coach. Oh, whatever.
You might be right there. I think you're right.
But either way, I do like that. I'll mention the Vikings super quick as a winner. They didn't blow the doors off of Green Bay, right? Green Bay has talent on defense. Their defense looked bad for a big portion of that game. But we are saying that the Vikings are winners. You and I both picked them as that long shot Super Bowl contender. And they look like they should be the team to beat in the NFC North right now. The weapons are serious. Thielen didn't even do much, but Justin Jefferson, goddamn. Now, I know he was open a lot. Granted, shout out to the offensive coordinator and the head coach, etc. But they're the team to beat in the NFC North. Not panicking on the Packers. We've seen this story before. The receivers will get a little better. The defense is good, but that did deserve a shout out at minimum there for the Vikings as winners. And in overreactions, let's just mention it right now. The 49ers, when I said chaos, nothing to write home about, I was thinking of that game. It was chaos. Trey Lance was a mess. The field was a mess. You saw the lines in the pregame on the sideline were crooked as hell. Looked like the guy was drunk. So that's something that I'm throwing out. It's an overreaction if anyone says otherwise. And what Wait, I had one more thing that I was going to say that I'm slipping my mind on here now, but that's okay. That's pretty much covering it all there. If it comes back to me, I'll touch it up later. But yeah, that's it for week 1 on the recap front. So Pat, real quick before we say goodbye, let's just talk about a week 2 matchup, maybe 1, maybe 2. We're obviously not going to make our picks now. That's going to come later in the week with Mark Shanlugan when he joins us again. So just quick outlook, Pat. Maybe let's just start on Chargers Chiefs Thursday night. Chargers, Chiefs Thursday night. I just questioned the Chargers. The Chiefs were off the charts. We talked about them a little bit too. So when you're looking at this game, Chiefs -4, over under 54.5. What a monster total. What are you expecting? What are you looking forward to for Thursday night's game?
Yeah, I think the Chargers are going to win it. I think the Chargers are going to win the game. I think they're going to prove to you. I mean, they've given the Chiefs trouble basically every year now for the last 4 or 5 seasons when they play them. And they usually play them week 2. And I feel like this is either the second or the third time they've played them week 2 Thursday night in the last couple of years. So this game is basically on the schedule every year. And, look, a lot of positive things about both these teams coming out of week 1. But I think the same reason why LA's been able to beat them in the past is the reason they're going to beat them on Thursday night. If they can get to the quarterback, if they can get to Mahomes, the pass rush with Bosa and Khalil Mack now. I mean, they've not only got one wing of an elite pass rusher coming at Mahomes, they've got 2. And that Kansas City offensive line looked very, very good, but I think that was more of a detriment to Arizona, having a lot of guys out on defense and just looking like dog shit in general. But, if Keenan Allen plays, then they've got their full complement of weapons. And this is a classic. Once again, for me, whenever you get 2 good offenses, I'm always going with the same game parlay, the teaser here. So, I know we're making our picks for the Sunday slate and beyond later in the week, but I'm already looking at a Chargers like +10 and an over 45, over 46, something in that range. And I think, this could be another big statement that, this is the betting favorite, the Chargers, why they are the betting favorites and why they're going to win this game.
It'll be a fun one, to say the least. And we know we often see fireworks. I expect more of that with this game on Thursday night. I'm looking forward to the Amazon Prime broadcast just to see what it's all about, see how it feels watching it. But besides that, I want to see the Chiefs do it again. I want to see if this whole idea that, less is more with the Chiefs offense and their weapons around Patrick Mahomes is going to make sense and mean something for the entire season. No more Tyreek Hill. It's been talked about ad nauseum. Juju Smith-Schuster looked pretty good. Travis Kelce is still Travis Kelce. They got guys who can make plays, and they got the best guy to assist those playmakers in making plays in Patrick Mahomes. I'm probably going to stay away from this as far as a pick. And like you said, our picks are coming after this game anyway. And now it's Thursday night. Am I going to put some action on it? Probably. Definitely. 100%. I'm going to put some action on it. It's Thursday Night Football, goddammit. But as far as like an official pick, I don't love it. I don't love it at -4. I can easily see this being a 3-point game, even if it's 33-30. And I expect some fireworks, to be quite frank. And I expect the Chargers defense to have their hands full, but also come in with a game plan. Because like you said, they've had success in the past and they'll expect it. I think I'm going to go maybe with some Juju Smith-Schuster props in a same game parlay, perhaps. I don't think Pacheco is a guy who is going to be a stud all season. I think it was a good, advantageous spot for him. But Mahomes is that dude. He almost gets overlooked as an MVP candidate. But man, how he played in week 1 was beautiful and looked unstoppable. So I want to see if that's just what they are right now. If they're revamped, re-energized, and ready to make a run. So I'm leaning opposite of you. If I were to go somewhere, I'd probably go Chiefs. I just hate that -4 number. So I'll see what works. I'll see if there's a teaser that makes sense. Maybe the Chiefs money line or something along those lines. But yeah, it's an exciting game, to say the least. Also, I did remember what I wanted to say, Pat. It's totally irrelevant, but I have to say it now. Russell Wilson, back to that real quick, continues to be the cringiest player in the NFL. It feels so fake. And so many people have been on this for years now of how weird he is with his answers in press conferences, with how he acts in interviews, his social media presence. It reminds me of Alex Rodriguez, where there's so much social awkwardness and anxiety that he just steers into completely the only thing he knows, which is being Mr. Unlimited and being amazing and his legacy and the God stuff that you talked about. It is one of the widest disparities in talent and connection to the fans and the public. I don't even know how people in Seattle loved him for so long. Clearly, they didn't love him the right way because of how they treated him on Monday night. And now Broncos fans are putting all their eggs in his basket, as they should, because he's an amazing talent. But it is so freaking weird how he acts, and it's uncomfortable to watch. So I just want to say that. I just need to get off my chest. A game that I'm looking forward to in week 2 is Saints Buccaneers. You just mentioned the Saints and what they did against the Falcons, the impressive second half. Jameis Winston not making big mistakes, utilizing his weapons. This is the test. This is the one where the Saints have owned this matchup since Tom Brady joined the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Right now, the Bucs are -3 at New Orleans, which really tells us if this was in Tampa, it'd probably be 5.5 or something in that range. So I don't know what the number's telling me right now. I lean towards taking the Saints +3 or taking them +9, even better in that type of teaser. But this is the one where we can look at the Saints now. If they truly compete, even if they don't win, but if they keep it within a touchdown and they play a good game, Jameis doesn't look overwhelmed. He's not getting bull rushed by their defensive line, and Kamara shows up again. We might continue to think that the Saints will be the thorn in the side of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Tom Brady, obviously that dude, we all know this. Their weapons a little depleted without Chris Godwin. Julio Jones looked very good. The Saints are familiar with him as well. So that is the game in week 2 that I want to see. Is this trend over the past 3 years of Brady being a Buccaneer going to continue? Are the Saints going to be for real? That is what I'm most looking forward to, especially in the 1:00 slate.
Yeah, that was my number one, and I'm glad that you said it because I had some others that I wanted to touch on. So I'm going to throw out, 2, maybe 3 really quickly here over the next minute and a half, just because I know we got to wrap. But first and foremost, I want to see how the Giants respond, right? I mean, we're talking about that game with the Panthers. Baker Mayfield, Robbie Anderson makes his return to MetLife. See how the Giants secondary fares with him, how they fare with McCaffrey. I want to see if the Giants can back up a win, a really impressive win in week 1. Patriots and the Steelers. I want to see if the Steelers can, they're a 1.5-point underdog. They're at home. No TJ Watt. So Patriots, Mac Jones won't have to deal with that. I mean, are they going to get off the mat? If they're 0-2, you could basically kiss the Patriots season goodbye, right? I'm not gonna actually have any doubt with saying that. If they lose this game on Sunday, you can kiss the Patriots season goodbye. There's no way they're going to be making the playoffs after an 0-2 start with 2 games that they could have won. 2 tight games on paper that they could have won. They've got to go into Pittsburgh. They've got to beat the Steelers. They've got to beat Mitch Trubisky. This is a game where I don't give a fuck if it's Joe Judge or Patricia or Belichick calling the plays. You got to find a way to move the ball, and that defense has to get some takeaways. It's Mitch Trubisky. So that I'm excited for that game in the 1:00 window. Also, Dolphins Ravens, right? I mean, here's a defense that with everybody coming back that they had injured last year, they're athletic enough, I feel like, to maybe foil Miami's game plan of Tua with the short balls to Waddle and to Tyreek Hill. And let's not forget, Miami kicked the shit out of Baltimore last year, beat them by double digits. So this is a bit of a revenge game here for Lamar. It's another chance for him to ball out. Can't wait to watch that game. And then just looking ahead, Monday night, I am very excited to see how Tennessee responds on the road at Buffalo. There is a lot of, and just from a betting standpoint, Pete, I can't wait. You might see Patty B alter the strategy a bit because there was a couple of double-digit spreads at the time being that should not be double-digit spreads. I'll just leave it at that. And Monday night, I think, is another one. Yes, Buffalo looks unstoppable. They look unbeatable. But again, Tennessee beat them last year. It was in Tennessee. I'm not ready to throw Tennessee's season out the window because of how the way they collapsed in that game against the Giants. I still think they are a solid team, and I think they have a game plan in place to compete with Buffalo. 10 points is a lot, man. So I'm excited to see if Buffalo blows the doors off them, I mean, they're going to be favored by like a minimum of 7 points every single game from here on out. And I've said it time and time again, Bills are going to win the Super Bowl. So I'm still sticking with that no matter what. But I want to see some life from Tennessee on the road. We get with the twin bill, the doubleheader Monday night. Can't wait for that. Week 2, hopefully betting-wise, will be a lot better for us than week 1.
Yes, and we'll make those picks. You'll see them on Friday. I can't wait for that. I'm going to stick with two NFC West teams for other games I want to look for. It's bounce back season in week 2. And what are the Rams and 49ers going to do? We talked about 10-point spreads right here. We got 2 more of them right here, Pat. We got the Rams at home -10 against the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons who showed some life, especially in that first half. The Rams who got blown out by the Buffalo Bills on Thursday night in week 1. This is a response. This is a time where the defending champs have to say, all right, week 1, let's throw it out. It's gone. We got to figure out how to use somebody else who's not named Cooper Kupp and get this offense cooking a little bit. They should obviously win this game. A 10-point spread, it feels aggressive, right? Like, is Vegas telling us that they really think the Rams are going to blow the doors off the Falcons? Or are they begging us to just say, oh, Rams, Falcons? Obviously, Rams win by double digits. That's always the big question. Same thing goes with the 49ers and the Seahawks. I can't believe that spread is -10. That one stinks, Pat. That one stinks. That's where I overthink it myself. And I do mental gymnastics on myself here and say, oh, the 49ers looked terrible in week 1, and they're still a 10-point favorite. The Seahawks looked pretty good in week 1, and they're 10-point dogs. I have to almost take the 49ers there because Vegas is telling me that they don't think the Seahawks are legit, and they're telling me that week 1 for the 49ers was an abomination and doesn't count, might as well have not happened. Now, I don't know if I'm going to make that one of my picks, but my initial inclination is that exact thing.
Yeah, Pete, maybe I'm not the ultimate fuck you Vegas sharp guy, but I feel like you rely too much on what Vegas says. Like, fuck that. That line's absurd. I'm telling you right now, one of my picks right now, I don't even think I'm going to mess around with the teaser. I'm going Seattle +10, and I'm probably sprinkling some on the money line. That line is stupid. And maybe that's because I'm a big Trey Lance hater, and I don't think he's very good, and I'm not going to just throw away their week 1 performance against Chicago due to the rain and the monsoon. Because they could have run the ball. They could have ran the ball, and they didn't. They didn't run the ball very effectively at all. So I am not a big believer in San Francisco. I will absolutely, I'm telling you right now, I'm putting Seattle +10 in as a bet this week. I might not even need to screw around with the teaser there, give them even more points. I think 10 is absurd. And out of the double-digit spreads we have on the board right now, which is Falcons-Rams, Seahawks-Niners, Texans-Broncos, Bears-Packers, Titans-Bills. Usually you start seeing double-digit spreads in week 3. We've already got 5 of them in week 2. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to make a prediction that I'm going to say by Sunday morning, only 2 of those will still be double digits. The other 3 will be bet down to single digits.
I like where your head's at. Why are we making teams that looked abysmal in week 1 double-digit favorites? And you're right, I do rely on that a bit because I try to outthink what the general person's going to feel. And I think that, and you could really mess yourself up with this, and I do it on occasion. I did it last week with the Patriots, for example A. But if the average person says, "What happened? The Niners sucked last week. Why are they 10-point dogs?" Seattle +10. Now, I'm not going to do that blindly. I'm going to wait and see where the money comes in. And granted, I might miss it. Like you said, that spread might change, and I might miss the 10-point spread, and it might go down. Maybe I think that's in my favor. Who's to say? But how teams like the Broncos and 49ers and Rams, who were terrible in week 1, are 10-point favorites against anybody, especially teams that didn't look terrible. It does boggle my mind a little bit. So I'm with you. I got to do that with caution for sure. But it's just how my brain automatically thinks about it. And I'm going to see how the money rolls in going into Thursday night, Friday, and see what happens.
And look, I'm sure if all 5 spreads right now at 10 points, I'm sure probably 2 or 3 might even cover. 2 or 3 might cover the double-digit spreads. Because, again, just like I said with San Francisco looking terrible, that's not a general assumption. Because teams will look bad in week 1 and will bounce back in week 2, exactly like you said. That is going to happen. But, and from my standpoint, a believer that San Francisco is not a very good team, that's a spot where I am going to hammer Seattle because Geno Smith did look good through most of that game, did not turn the ball over. So that is a spot where, yeah, you can read too much into week 1. But if you have your beliefs, if you have your inclinations, if you're like me and you don't think Trey Lance is the answer at quarterback, if you don't think San Francisco is a great team like they were last year, then take that 10 points with Seattle and run with it. I could easily see Denver covering the 10. That one's probably gonna be a stay away from me. As good as Houston did look for most of that game against Indianapolis, Packers, they probably should be a 10-point favorite. That's a team where if you're going to say, here's the bounce back game coming, I would say it would be from Green Bay Sunday night at home.
They historically dominate the Bears, right? And also what these numbers are daring us to do is to employ the 10-point 3-team teaser and get the Bills down to a money line, the Packers down to a money line, the Niners or the Rams down to a money line. One of those teams is going to blow it. There, like Mark Shenlukin said, there's always that big money line bomb waiting to blow up. And this week, between the Rams, Niners, Packers, and Bills, and I think there's one more you mentioned, the Broncos, one of those teams will likely come up very short, very short. So I agree. It's a sketchy thing. And in reality, they're probably numbers that you should just stay away from until you actually get a better sense of what these teams are. Last game for me, now we talked about half the slate, but another Monday night game, Vikings. We're hyped about them. They're at the Philadelphia Eagles. We expect them to win their division. We expect the Vikings to win their division. Right now, Pat, Eagles -2.
I already know you're going to have a Vikings bet. I already know it.
They're begging me to tease them again. Now, listen, Monday night, if this number's still -2 for the Philadelphia Eagles, we got maybe a 9.5 or a 9 for the Buffalo Bills. You combo those Monday nights, and you got a beautiful teaser laying out there for you. Now, it's a little scary. That's why they call it a teaser. We get it. But, I mean, hey, the Vikings being an underdog this early in the year, again, at the Eagles, that means they're pretty much even. If this was neutral side, it'd be about a money line pick, whatever. And I don't know. I don't know if I can make that a real pick there, but you know me with my Minnesota Vikings. For some reason, they are mine. I don't know why. I'm not even a fan of their team particularly. This number is screaming for them to be teased up to +8. And do the Eagles have it in them after what we saw in week 1 to win a game dominantly? You know, they can win by 3, absolutely, but you tease those Vikings up to 8. You gotta be feeling good about that.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm already penciling in my Pete Kennedy bingo card. I'm already penciling in there will be a Vikings bet this week again. I know.
Oh, man. Listen, until they steer me wrong, which they have before, but until they do it again and again and again, and then maybe I'll reconsider. Oh my God, Pat, what an episode. Another great time talking football with you. This has been an absolute blast. Every time we do it, it always is. And shout out to you for spending the time with me every week to do so. And we're going to be doing it more with our picks every week as well. What a time. What a time, Pat. Any last words for Subway Sports Talk? Anything to plug with you on air or anywhere else or whatever, life?
Yeah, no, I will be back on the air hosting on CBS Sports Radio late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, 2 to 6 a.m. So there'll be plenty of college football to react to as well. And then a lot of NFL Week 2 preview for the big Sunday ahead. So I appreciate it, Pete. Always a blast hopping on with you here, man. You're the man in terms of turning around all this content. You're the man behind the mic. You're the man behind all the editing. You're the man behind the entire project. So this would not be a thing without you. And always love coming on, chatting football with you, brother.
Well, thank you, my guy. I appreciate it as always. And what you do here is not unappreciated either. And you know, I got to say this, I got to be better with getting out some more content of our own on social, especially with the picks. And I will do that this week. Last week, I had a wedding on Saturday. We recorded Saturday morning, which was already behind. And I got to be honest, I was hurting on Sunday morning. So I was unable to cut up any video. I was hardly able to look at my phone, let alone eat anything. I had this beautiful, beautiful sandwich from this place called Pastosa. They got one down the shore by my girlfriend's house, originally in Brooklyn, 3 of them in Staten Island. What a beautiful Italian delicacy. And I had this sandwich sitting there for hours, Pat. I couldn't even look at it until like 3:30. It was bad. It was so bad.
Jeez. What was the drink of choice on Saturday?
It was tequila,
Oh, yeah.
but I don't want to blame tequila. I want to blame myself. I want to wear this one. Wear it right here, right on the chin. I'm doing a great job drinking tequila and water because the seltzer sometimes, you know, messes with my tummy. So
I hear a lot of people doing tequila waters. I don't know if I could ever do it myself.
no, it's good. It's not bad. Tequila water with some lime, maybe a lot of lime if you may. But then at the post-wedding party, that's when things got frisky. You know, somebody knocked over one of my drink. They say, "Oh, don't worry, I got you back." Oh, don't even worry about it. They bring me a shot of tequila. Now I'm feeling frisky, Pat. You know how that goes.
You feel that gasoline right in your chest.
Ooh, it was warm too. It was warm. Hopefully people aren't feeling some type of way on a Wednesday listening to this and they're going to get a little curdle in their stomach, a little sweaty tongue. And then it was downhill. It was downhill from there. We woke up, we watched a ton of football, but the social media action was not sharp for me on Sunday. So I'll be better this week, I promise.
Don't worry about it, dude.
That's all we got. Subway Sports Talk. Thank you guys as always for tuning in, especially y'all who stay to the end of these episodes. I love it. I love you guys. And thank you. Subscribe, rate, review on your podcast app. Subscribe, hit the notifications bell on the YouTube. Tell your friends. Hit us up on social media at Subway Sports Talk, at Pat Boyle 44, at Pete Kennedy with 2 Y's on the end. That's how we do it. We'll be here all year long. Subway Sports Talk, y'all. Cheers.